Joined now by Alex Newman, our international correspondent. Alex, thank you for your time today.
Great to be with you. Thank you so much, Duke.
Well, you have, besides being an international correspondent, you have the, I suppose, good fortune, at least at this moment in time, to be living in Florida, where you have clearly one of the best Republican governors we've seen in a long time. And before we even start about the story, Ron DeSantis has done a great job. He's in the media. You know he's doing a great job by the degree to which the Democrats are attacking him dumbly, right, without really any evidence. Almost everything that they've thrown against this guy is like Teflon. It just bounces off. Why is it? I want to ask you this question at the start. Unlike Kristi Noem and some other Republican governors who seem to be good, but then when you scratch the surface, you see the authoritarianism, you see the compromise. Why does it seem to me that there is none of that in DeSantis? Is there anything about the governor that you're living in the state that you would say does not meet the hype nationally?
Well, he's doing a very good job, and I think at this point there is no question. If you enjoy freedom, if you enjoy personal responsibility, making your own decisions, and not being treated like a child, Florida is the place to be. Yesterday I heard a lot of people expressing concerns about how he's promoting vaccinations, but you know what? He has said all along they're going to be voluntary. We're not going to be mandating anything. We're not. In fact, he has taken the lead nationally in saying not only are we not going to mandate, we're not going to allow anybody to mandate. We're going to prohibit vaccine passports. He actually signed that into law. So, despite these concerns here and there, he really has done a good job when it comes to protecting individual liberty, in spite of the nonstop drumbeat from the radical left and their allies in the fake media. Now they've been calling him Death Santis for over a year, and he seems to outsmart them. He does very much like Donald Trump. He lays a trap for them and then they fall right in it. So it's been funny to watch.
Is he pretty popular in the state as well? Is it a close race there, or is he pretty well liked across the spectrum?
He's extremely popular. And one of the things that's interesting is that even a lot of Democrats in our legislature, and our legislature is nothing to write home about. I mean, when you compare it to states like Oklahoma, Florida's legislators are largely pathetic. There are some exceptions. But even some of the Democrats in the legislature have said, hey, look, it actually looks like Ron DeSantis got it right on the COVID stuff. We didn't implode our economy. We didn't force everybody to do all kinds of crazy things that proved to have either no beneficial effect or worse, were counterproductive. So we've had, I think he's extremely popular in this state, and I think, assuming we have an honest election, he will win by a much larger margin in the upcoming election than he did in the first one.
And speaking of those ballsy moves that he's known for with regards to COVID, how about this latest one that ties into our theme today? He actually has banned mask mandates. Every other idiot state, including states run by idiot governors who are Republicans, are moving towards masking. But this guy says no. He says he ridiculed Biden, which we all love, which only has to happen, and then ban masks for children in public schools. That's a staggering achievement. How's that one going? Explain his rationale for that, and how's it going over in the state?
Yeah, one of the things that's so brilliant about DeSantis is he kind of checkmates these guys before he even lets them know what's going on. So if you read his executive order, they can't report on the executive order unless they just want to be flagrantly dishonest without reporting the facts in there. Like, studies show that there is no benefit from the face diapers. Studies show that, especially with children, they accumulate fungus and parasites and bacteria and infectious things. Kids don't wear them properly. Studies show that kids are almost not at all affected by the COVID. In fact, they're very unlikely to even catch a serious case, much less spread it around to the community. So he lists all these things in the executive order. So if a journalist wants to report on this, unless they want to be real dishonest, they've got to mention, hey, he pointed out that there's studies, and you can go see the studies. They actually show what he said, because the establishment is determined to hide this information. DeSantis actually convened a summit here in the state of Florida. He brought together top medical experts and scientists and doctors from Harvard, from Oxford, from Stanford, from the White House. And they all said, look, the masks were dumb. The lockdowns killed people and didn't save people. So he put it all out on the line there. And what did they have to do? They couldn't talk about the merits of these arguments. They just had YouTube deleted. So that's the situation we're in. DeSantis is outsmarting these people at every turn. And rather than address the arguments, they just, like children, oh, well, you're a dummy head. You're a doo-doo head. Your Death Santis is the nickname they've come up with him, and yet they can't actually address the things that he wrote in the executive order. So he's doing a good job.
Well, that's the standard operating procedure of the Democrat Party, right? Ignore the accomplishments of the Republican and come up with all sorts of crazy conspiracy theories. It works against almost every other Republican governor. Why do you think it doesn't work against DeSantis?
Well, part of the reason is that the people here on the ground in Florida have eyes to see and ears to hear. You know, the fake media tells you the sky is falling, and yet you go outside and the sky is just where it always has been. And so, part of it is just people using their common sense and their five senses to figure out, hey, the media is being deceitful. Part of it is the numbers, too. No matter how much the media tries to hide this, 2020 numbers are in and they're clear. New York had almost twice the death rate that Florida had, and they used outright totalitarianism under the guise of fighting the virus. Florida took a very hands-off approach. Use your own common sense. Use your brain. God gave you a brain, right? And we've seen the numbers. Less people got sick as a percentage of the population. Far less people died as a percentage of the population. And that's despite the fact that Florida generally has an older population than almost any state in the union. So people can see this. A lot of our local media, even though they're liberal, they're not quite as dishonest as like the CNNs and the ABC fake newses of the world. And so, I think we, of course, have these lunatics that are locked in we don't have basements in Florida, but that are, staring at CNN, pumping raw sewage into their brain. But by and large, Florida people with common sense have looked at this and said, hey, we appreciate this governor treating us like responsible adults, and it's paying dividends for DeSantis.
Well, the great news is that kids in Florida schools will not have to wear masks in the fall, which is going to be much more healthy. We have studies out that show that it's much more dangerous for little children to be breathing in their own waste than the threat of COVID is to them. So this is a milestone for these kids. I just wish, Alex, that we had some governors, Republican governors, who would look at what DeSantis is doing and have more courage rather than more kowtowing to ridiculous fake science Democrat demands.
Yeah, and if they would, it would pay political dividends for them. All these squishy Republican governors in these hardcore Republican states, they should be taking the lead, and yet DeSantis is mopping the floor with them. He's setting himself up for prominence on the national stage, while a lot of these other governors are losing it.